know me, you know that during the summer, I have 4 kids, 2 of them play baseball. We literally have close to 100 baseball games every spring and summer. So we are extremely busy. Eric Kirk, my friend, welcome to the show. So I am back. I am still alive. I am still here at an earlier time than normal, but it feels good to be back. As I was saying a little bit earlier when I saw my good friend come in, um, we've been busy. We've had a lot of baseball games, been very busy with our kids. We've got 4 kids home during the summertime. So we are super busy. So, hey, dude, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. So, just going to give you an update what's going on in my life, what's been happening here. We've got a big storm hitting us today. So, Hurricane Elsa, that I know has hit Florida and gone up the coast of the United States, is now hitting New England, and we're not getting it too bad. We're getting a lot of rain, and we're going to have some wind today and things like that. But all in all, it's not too bad. So, we're doing okay. We did have a house guest for the last week who is leaving or has left this morning. My wife left this morning and drove Lee to the airport. She's flying back to Fort Myers, Florida. And, I'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, but I want to talk and do a little bit of a tribute to my father-in-law, Walter J. Ferreira, who passed away last week, and we just got done with the wake and the funeral this past week. And I'm going to do a little tribute to him and talk about his life a little bit. He was a good man. He passed away at 72 years old from colon cancer. He was living in Fort Myers, Florida, and passed away down there in hospice. And we just had the wake and the funeral the last couple of days. And obviously there was a couple of very difficult days where my wife lost her father. My children lost their grandfather, and he was really a very unique, special man. And my wife yesterday gave the eulogy at the funeral, and it was funny because she started off with, when God made my father, he broke the mold, and that was so true in so many ways. We have so many funny stories about him that we'll get into. But life here, excuse me, all in all, has been pretty good. Like I said, we've been busy. We've got tons of baseball games, and it was funny. Last weekend we had a camping trip planned. My family has a camper. We like to camp. So last week we were going to go camping, and unfortunately we had to cancel the camping trip due to my father-in-law becoming sick. So we weren't able to go. So we have a camping trip again scheduled for this weekend, and we're actually supposed to leave today to go get to the campground. Of course, we're now being hit with the remnants of a hurricane, so I'm not sure if we're going to camp tonight. We may delay that until tomorrow, but we're going to be heading out to Salisbury, Massachusetts, which is right on the ocean here in Massachusetts. And it's a nice area. My brother-in-law has a campsite there. So it's funny, though. We scheduled this weekend, like we were going to camp from today until next Wednesday. So, hey, how you doing, Tammy? Good to see you. So anyway, we're supposed to camp from today until next Wednesday, and we're getting hit with a hurricane today. Then tomorrow, my son Brandon is playing for an all-star team for Little League. His coach scheduled a practice for tomorrow morning. My daughter's friend has a race near our house, and she wants to go see him. Then, we figured, okay, we'll go on Saturday after that. We'll have the 4 days to kind of relax and camp and just get away. So then we get a call from Boston Casting. Some of you may know that come into my show regularly that my son Matt is an actor. He has autism, he has Tourette's syndrome, he has OCD, and he's got some challenges. Life has not been easy for him. He's had to work very hard to get to the point where he graduated high school this year, and he's going to community college. Hopefully, he does have a job at a grocery store, but he's a very good actor. So over the summer, he was in a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, just as a small role, as an extra. But he got into that movie. It's going to be on Netflix sometime this summer. It's called Don't Look Up. So a couple of weeks ago, he took an acting class for Boston Casting, and we just got the phone call that he is going to be in the Showtime series Dexter as a high school student. So again, it's great, but we found out today. Now I have to rush him to the studio and get him a COVID test this afternoon so he can be on set. And then he's on set Monday and Wednesday all day. So literally, if we go camping tonight, I have to drive home tomorrow. I have to drive home Sunday. I have to drive home Monday. And then I'll be driving home again on Tuesday. So for me, it's not going to be much of a vacation. I'm going to be doing my usual driving all over the place. And Radio Project, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. But, for us up here in Massachusetts, it's been a strange summer. I know I haven't been on for a while, but we've had, it's been weird. We'll have temperatures, in the 90s, and then we get down to the 50s. And literally, like last week, we were up 3 days in a row in Boston. We were 97, 99, and then 100 degrees in Boston, 3 consecutive days. And then literally 2 days later, over the weekend, we were in the 50s with rain. So it's just been crazy weather up and down. But it's been good. I mean, we love summer up here in Massachusetts. I think one of the things when you have so much snow, when you have so much cold during December, January, and February, you just tend to love those summer months when you get that warm, beautiful outdoor weather. And the fall too up here is nice. But then, as I've talked about many, many times, if any of you out there are from a warm weather climate, do not come to Boston in January, February, and really even March. And again, December is still really cold and crappy, but at least it's Christmas time and the snow's kind of, nice at that point. But it was funny. I was looking through pictures the other day, and I remember there was a winter probably 7 years ago now, and we lived in the same house that we live in now. This winter was the worst winter I think I've ever experienced in my life for the amount of snow we got. And that winter, it didn't really snow much in December or January, but in the month of February, we got literally like 10 feet of snow in 1 month because the grounds were clear through the end of January, which was strange. Then we got caught in a weather pattern where it's almost like a winter hurricane. They call them up here nor'easters. The nor'easters head up the coast. And because New England kind of like sticks out in the ocean, New England gets pounded one after another. And that's what this was. We literally got 10 feet of snow in the month of February to the point where we had my son Ethan was sledding off the roof of our house. He was little at the time, but he was able to climb up the snow pile, climb onto the roof, and sled from the top part of the roof, jump off the roof, and land in the driveway eventually. I mean, we had doors that were literally covered almost all the way to the top with snow. It was just the most incredible winter I ever remember. And I think we lost. Like a lot of people moved out of New England after that winter because people were just like, that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I am done. And I can't blame them. But we're here. We're still here. And my wife and I talk favorably about how someday we're going to retire to Fort Myers or Florida or someplace warm where we can put all this snow and cold weather behind us. But that's still, quite a ways away. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit if I could, and I'm going to have Eric call in a little bit, but I want to talk for a little bit longer, and I want to give a little bit of a shout out to my father-in-law. And I know I'm on a strange time today. This was an unannounced show, so I just decided to get up this morning and do this show. So thanks, Eric, for popping in. I know this is early for you. You stay up late on a lot of different shows, but I want to read, if I could, just my father-in-law's obituary. And I want to talk just a little bit about him. This isn't going to be too long because I know a lot of you don't know who he is, but he was really a very special guy. His name, my father-in-law, was Walter J. Ferreira. He passed away on July 1st, 2021. And the one thing I could say, and this is actually a funny story. I think you guys will appreciate this. Now, when I met my wife, I had just turned 30 years old. I was 29 years old and turned 30 like the month before I met her. She was 22, about to be 23. So there's a pretty good age difference. And that was actually one of my concerns when I first met her. I thought she was great. I thought she was nice. She was 22, about to go to medical school. And I'm like, geez, I'm 30. She's too young. By the time she gets out of medical school, I'm going to be in my late 30s. I want to have a family. And I remember I talked to my sister after I met her. And my sister was the one that said, you know what? Who cares about age? If you guys really got along, then, it's meant to be, right? So we met in Boston. She went to Boston University, and we met at a BU alumni event, a Boston University alumni event that a friend of mine dragged me to because I didn't even go to school there. So she ended up sitting down next to me. We met. We found out that even though we met in Boston, we grew up a mile and a half apart from each other in New Hampshire, and we just hit it off so well. We got along well. We talked the entire night. I got her phone number. We got on the phone several times before we went out and talked for like literally 2 hours every time, just easy conversations. And we went out and had a great time. So we started dating, and my wife Cheryl's got two younger brothers, Walter and Stephen. So her youngest brother at the time was in high school, and he found out his oldest sister was dating, quote unquote, an old guy. So Cheryl's father is old school, grew up in a kind of a tough town near Boston, and he has four brothers, and certainly not guys you want to have angry at you. So Cheryl finally calls me and she said, John, I hope you don't mind, but Steven, my little brother, told my father that I'm dating an old guy and we need to go up and meet my parents. So I was like, oh God, wonderful. So I remember I got in my car, drove up to see my parents first, and her house was, like I said, a mile and a half away from where I lived. Different town, different school district, so we didn't know each other, and we were different ages also. So I ended up going over to her parents' house. And I remember getting on the front steps, walking up to the door, and thinking to myself, man, I really don't want to go in because I knew what he was thinking. Again, my intentions were pure, my intentions were good. I liked her. I wasn't looking for anything else. I wasn't looking for sex or whatever. I was looking for a relationship with someone, but I knew what the father was thinking. So I literally, knocked on the door. I was let in. I took a few steps in the door, and he was sitting in his reclining chair. And I remember he gave me the death look of all death looks when he saw me come in the room. And I was like, holy shit, this guy's going to kill me. So I walk in, and the mother comes over and introduced herself to me. She's, hey, John, I'm Cheryl. Nice to meet you. Welcome to our house. And I remember, I figured, okay, the best way I can deal with this is, being funny, because I was nervous. So I walk in and I said, hey guys, how you doing? I'm like, and the first thing I said was, I'm like, listen, I came up to the front door and I almost left. I really didn't want to come in. I was afraid to come in. And they both laughed. And I'm like, honestly, I just have to let you know up front. I know I'm older than Cheryl. I know that's probably a concern for the both of you, but I want to let you know I really like her. I'm hoping it turns into a relationship, and I respect her. And I hope that the two of you can, learn to maybe like me at some point. So, it went well. I mean, the first time we met was a little bit tough, but he eventually warmed up, and she eventually warmed up also. And I had Walter in my life for 24 years. So Walter, was my father-in-law for 24 years. 24 years. I mean, we dated for a few years. First of all, my wife and I are going to be married 20 years this year. So he was, I guess like a mentor for a few years, and then a father-in-law for 20 years. But Walter was a great guy. He was, he's a tough guy, a tough city guy that grew up in Charlestown. He and his brothers knew, guys from the Whitey Bulger gang and things like that. So that was always a reason for me to treat my wife well, because otherwise I'd end up in a shallow grave someplace. Just kidding, not really true. But he was a good guy, but a tough guy. But he loved his family. He loved his family. He loved his children. He loved his grandchildren. I mean, he worshipped the ground his grandchildren worked on, walked on. They absolutely loved him. He loved them, and he would send money for any little small accomplishment they did. He would come to little league games, and he would always be there for his grandchildren. But again, he was always there for me. He was always there to give me advice. He was always there to help me when I was going through difficult times. And really, he was the glue that held his family together. So he passed away on July 1st. Just a great guy, and he's going to be missed. I mean, the wake and the funeral, the last 2 days were very difficult. But I just want to read his obituary, and then we're going to move on to the next topic and have Eric come in and maybe chat a little bit. This is going to be like an hour-long show today. It's not going to be too long, but I figured I'd get on today since I haven't been on in a while, and just talk to everybody and get in and just kind of talk about what's been going on in my life. So let me read this obituary again. This is the obituary of my father-in-law, my wife's father, Walter J. Ferreira. He was a Navy veteran. He passed away on July 1st, 2021. So Walter J. Ferreira, a resident of North Fort Myers, Florida, and a former 35-year resident of Salem, New Hampshire, and former longtime resident of Charlestown, Massachusetts, entered into eternal life on Thursday, July 1st, 2021, at the Hope Hospice in Cape Coral, Florida. He was 72 years of age. Walter was born in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is right next to Boston, on July 9th, 1948. So he almost made it to his 73rd birthday. He was the son of the late Walter Ferreira and Dorothy Evers. Now, you remember a while back we did a show on Dolly, who passed away. That was my wife's grandmother. She passed away due to COVID over the winter. So he grew up in Charlestown, where he was educated throughout the Boston public school system. He also furthered his education and received an associate's degree. He enlisted in the United States Navy on February 13th, 1969, and served his country faithfully with courage during the Vietnam conflict. He was honorably discharged on November 2nd, 1970, with a rank of Seaman E/3. Walter worked for Verizon for many years and retired as a switch operator. Walter, let me scroll down a little bit here. Hold on one second. Nothing like live podcasting. All right. Walter is the beloved husband of the late Cheryl M. Marcella Ferreira. She was a wonderful woman also. He is the devoted father of Dr. Cheryl DeVito, her husband John, which is me, Walter J. Ferreira, his companion Heather Donito, and Stephen Ferreira and his wife Noelle. He is the loving grandpa to Matthew, Caitlin, Ethan, Brandon, and Aiden. He is the beloved brother of Kenny, Dennis, Ronald, his wife Karen, and Robert Ferreira and his late wife Dawn. He is the dear companion of Etheline Williams, who would just stay with us. Her nickname is Lee. He is also survived by many loving nieces, nephews, and cousins. So that's it right there. That's the obituary of my father-in-law. I wanted to pay some respect to him. Welcome to everybody coming in. I just switched back to my screen. I see that Dina Joe popped in. Kimberly, Payment John Ponte, welcome to the show. And Eric, if you want to call in, I'd love to chat with you a little bit. It's been a while since we talked. Hopefully you're still here and we could chat a little bit and find out what's going on in your life right now. I know, as always, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of things that have been happening since, I haven't been on the air, so you'll bear with me if I mention some of these things. But again, we had recently, the unfortunate incident in Miami where the building collapsed, and that absolutely broke my heart. I've been watching that on the news, and I know they've been trying to find survivors in that whole situation, and they've been very slowly going through and pulling out people from that horrible situation. But Eric, I see that you joined the panel, so I want to welcome you to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just got up not too long ago.
Oh, there go my dogs. They're barking. Hold on one second. Hold on.
Is that Brady or Molly?
Oh, it's barking. Hold on. All right. So you just got up a little while ago, you were saying, Eric?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I may have to connect you. Hold on one sec. We get a technical difficulty going here. Hold on one second. I know what the problem is. I just need to fix it. Hold on. Almost done. Let me get you on. All right, Eric, go ahead now.
All right. You can hear me now?
Yeah, you know what I did? I have on my Rodecaster Pro, I've got like a little port that I have to plug in so people can hear. So I just plugged you in, and now you're here. I had you plugged into the Rodecaster, but not my computer. So I fixed that. So how you been, buddy? How are things going?
I'm doing good for the most part. Hopefully everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. You know, um, big congratulations, of course, to Dina Joe and the old man and J Baby and Dina Joe's granddaughter and the old man's friend Christina on their birthday back on Tuesday, and Slightly and Big Sexy's 4th wedding anniversary yesterday.
I saw that on Instagram. I saw that picture because I follow him on Instagram, and that was a beautiful picture. It looks like they had a nice wedding on the beach in Hawaii. That looked beautiful.
That was when they got married 4 years ago. They were in Vegas the week of 4th of July and their wedding anniversary.
Nice.
Hey, Mike, welcome.
Hey, Mike, good to see you. Now, that was something I always wanted to do. I've never been to Hawaii, and I saw that their wedding was in Hawaii 4 years ago, and they were right on the beach. I mean, that looks like just an absolutely beautiful way, to get married and just kind of, join that way. So that looked absolutely beautiful. So,
right.
So how have you been? How's everything going? What's going on with your life?
I've been doing pretty good for the most part. Not really too much special, except that I had gotten done with, like 2 rounds of house sitting for the brother and sister-in-law.
Okay, nice. So how long did you house sit for? How long were you there for?
There was, of course, the week of June 19th to the 26th. Then I was back from June 29th to the July 5th.
Nice. And I see Crazy Kane came in. So welcome, Crazy Kane. How are you? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. All right, there's the Crazy Kane welcome, as always, when he comes in.
But with the July 6th birthdays, me and Dina Joe and the old man also learned that J Baby's longtime boyfriend has finally decided to pop the question.
Oh, you're kidding! That's amazing! Congratulations! Wow.
Well, if J Baby's listening to this, because I'm sure good friends like Dina Joe and Jess Duck are really thrilled to hear that news.
So now, has he already popped the question? So are they engaged
Yep,
now? Oh, that's
yep.
great. Have they set a
Jay
date as
Baby and
to when you're
Steve.
going to get married? Yeah, when's the date?
Um, well, I don't think a date has been decided yet, but hopefully we'll know something soon enough.
We got to give them a little applause for that. So that's amazing. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, because again, I haven't been on for a bit. And Mike, I saw your message. Good to see you, brother, as well. And, with everything I've been through, the last couple of weeks, watching my father in law, get sick, he had cancer, he passed away. We just went through the funeral and the wake the other day. And I got to say that, one of the best things I think that's ever happened to me in my life, and I know people have had different experiences with this, but for me, I had a lot of dreams when I was a young man. Some dreams happen, some dreams don't. And that's just kind of the way life goes. But one of the best things that happened to me, and I don't even know if I realized that this is what I wanted, but I think God had a plan for me, was that,
Hmm.
I found the perfect person for me. And she may not be the perfect person for everybody, and I'm certainly
Yeah,
not
like
the
right.
perfect person. Hey, Lightbright, how you doing? Hey, busy. Hey, everybody coming in. Good to see you all. But I feel very fortunate that I found the right person, for me in my life, and we've been able now this September, we're going to be married for 20 years. We've got 4 children, and we've had, believe me, we've had our ups and downs. We've had, we've had weeks when we don't like each other at all. We have weeks that we're, deeply in love. I mean, that's kind of how relationships go, I think, sometimes. But when I hear of other people that, are getting married, popping the question, and it just makes me happy to see that people are still going that route, because I know it seemed like for a while that a lot of people didn't feel there was value in being married. And I think for a while I felt that way also. But I've got to say, for me anyway, I guess I've been very fortunate where marriage for me has been a good thing. I think it's made me a better person. Being with my wife, she's, I think, definitely brought the best out in me. And it was funny. I remember being really nervous right before I got married. I was engaged, and I didn't get married till I was 33 years old. I was running wild in my 20s, having a good time, probably too much of a good time. But I got married at 33. And I remember being very nervous before I got married. And I think part of the reason why I was so nervous is, my parents had a very rocky relationship. My mother and father fought a lot. And when I say they fought, I'm talking my father really, yelling, screaming, just being abusive. And it wasn't a good situation. So I think I grew up always worrying that I was going to be, that type of husband or be that type of father. And, it worried me. I was afraid. I was afraid to be, what my father had become. And I was afraid to be, an abusive man, an abusive father, and all those different things. But, I think it was good for me to wait a long time in order to mature and get older and hopefully a little bit wiser. But I definitely found the person that brought the best out in me. I think that's so important. And when I was afraid right before I got married, I remember one of my very good friends had a talk with me, and he sat me down, and I've known this kid literally since elementary school. And he sat with me and said, the one thing I see about your wife, Cheryl, is she does seem to bring the best out in you. And, that's so important in someone that you find, because sometimes you find someone and, maybe you like to go out and party and you like to have a good time, but maybe they're not bringing out the best qualities in you. And I think that my wife does that for me. And I hope I do it for her. I'm not sure if I do or not. I try to be very supportive. And it was kind of funny, like I was talking about earlier. I met her in Boston, and I was 30 when I met her. She was only 22. So I was kind of weird about her age. I'm not someone that goes out like seeking people that are like 10 years younger than me. I really didn't like the fact that she was younger than me, and my sister kind of talked me into it, and it all worked out.
Welcome, Mike
But,
Miller.
it, relationships can be hard, but you need to find the right person. And one of the things that was a little tough for me when we first started dating, I know I've got younger people that listen to my show, and you know me, I'm a little bit older than you guys, than most of you, if not all of you. Unless old man's here, he's got me trumped by a little bit. But I'm 53 years old, and when I grew up, in the 70s and 80s as a kid, things were a lot different than they are now. I mean, honestly, the mindset in my household was, the men go out and earn the money, and the women stay home and take care of the children, and that was just the mindset of society. That was the expectation of men. That's just how everybody thought back then. It's just the way it was. And for me, I never liked that. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. Why can't women have jobs? And I guess maybe that was because I had, a grandmother that owned businesses. My mother was a nurse. So I saw women that worked during the course of my life. And I remember when I first met my wife, we had that conversation because, I'm a very competitive person. I'm a type A personality. I've had opportunities in my life that I've had to pass over because I agreed with my wife. She was saying, "Listen, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm not getting off that path. This is going to be something that has been a dream my entire life. My family supports me, and if we're going to date, you have to be on board with the fact that's going to be my career." So for me, over the course of our lives, we've had the four children, and I've had to kind of make concessions in my career. For 1 year, way back earlier in my career, I was the interim vice president of my company. And that, unfortunately, in my business requires me to be on an airplane all the time. So I would have been on a plane every Monday, flying every week, gone. I probably wouldn't have seen my wife much. I wouldn't have seen my children a lot. And I had to turn down an opportunity to finalize that job and take it permanently because I was on an interim basis because of my wife's career and because of my children. So I kind of took the back seat in our relationship career wise sometimes, in order to help my wife. But for me, I've had no regrets. And hi, Michael, I see you coming in and everybody coming in. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Fred, welcome to the show. Everybody else that's coming in, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. But for me being a guy that's 53 years old, I grew up with a dad that went to work every day, grandparents, all the men I knew, they were the earners, they were the people that made their money. So for me, it was a little tough at times to kind of swallow my pride and realize, okay, well, my wife's probably going to have a better job than I am. She's probably going to make more money than I am. But it's funny. I think it's been a very good thing for my life where if I had been that guy that took that job of being the vice president and I was flying around all the time, all over the country, flying to China for trade events, things like that, I wouldn't have known my children. I would not have known them. And when they're little, you think they're going to be little forever, but they're not. When you have children, they grow up so fast. They grow up so fast. I mean, it feels like for me, my children were babies yesterday, and now I've got one that's graduated from high school. He's 18. My daughter's 16. She's going to be a junior. She's going to be gone in a couple of years. My son Ethan's going to high school next year at 14, and my youngest is going to be in seventh grade. And it actually hit me this morning. When I'm thinking about my life, I'm thinking about my father-in-law passing away and how quickly that went. I'm thinking about my children, how quickly they've grown up. And then I realized literally in 6 years, all four of my children are going to be gone. Of our children are going to be gone. And, raising my children has been such a big part of my life. And it started making me think about my life and, what's important in life. And, I really didn't know which way I was going to go with this show today because I didn't really plan for it. But, I guess if I can give anybody any advice for their lives, I know, again, we've got a mix of people in here, but live for today. Enjoy your life. Don't
I
worry
gotcha.
just about money. Money is not the end all be all of life. Everyone puts material possessions out there as being so important. You got to have the expensive car. You got to have the Coach purse. You got to have the Gucci belt. You got to have all these, expensive, important things to show you have worth. But really, when it comes down to it, none of those things matter. None of those things matter. Having a lot of money may make it easier to pay the bills, but it doesn't make you any happier. It really does not. It does not. It might make your life a little bit easier, but it doesn't make you any happier than when you don't have money. And honestly, I think the thing that I've learned over the years in my life is that being with your family, if you can, spending time with your loved ones and enjoying them while they're here is the most important thing that you can have. Because if you've got $5 million in the bank, but you've got no loved ones around you, you're living a lonely life. If you have family, even if you don't always get along with them, I mean, trust me, no one family is perfect. I could tell you stories for hours about my family, my wife's family, and all the different quirks and things that go on in our family. No one's family is perfect. No one's, but you only have one. You only have one family, and we're at a point now. My wife and I, where the only grandparent we have left, or the only parent the two of us have left, is my father. We lost my mother when she was 67. We lost my wife's mother when she was 65. My father-in-law just passed away on July 1st. And, we've got my father who's going to be 81 in October. He's the oldest of the bunch, and he's got dementia. So enjoy your family when you have them. Live for today. While you're planning for the future, don't give up on, what you have in your life right now. If you've got a grandmother, a grandfather, an uncle, an aunt, a parent, make sure you spend time. Even if you're busy, don't skip out on the family cookouts. Don't skip out on the family Thanksgivings. Don't skip out on a chance to spend time, with your family on the 4th of July or Christmas. Take that time and enjoy it. And again, if you're going through life and maybe there's a relative you haven't spoken to in a long time, get back in touch with them. Get back in touch with them and rekindle that relationship. I remember there was a period of time where I didn't speak to my father for over 2 years. And we, finally ended up mending things up right before my wedding. And he was actually able to come to my wedding because we did that. Oh, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Crazy Kane. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. I got a lot of messages from a lot of people, and I really, really, really appreciate everyone that reached out to me. And it meant a lot to me. It really did. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to come back today and just kind of have a little bit of a show. So yeah, old man. I'll tell you. I know a lot of you go into the old man show. The old man is a very wise man. I've gotten some good advice from him. One piece of advice I got from the old man a little while ago was talking about when you're planning for your life goals. This is something he sent me directly. Like my son Ethan, for instance, he plays baseball. Okay, I know we've talked about this, and he's a good baseball player. He was recently named one of the top 50 baseball players in all of New England for the class of 2025. So he went the other day to a showcase, and he did a good job, at the showcase, and improved his times. And as he's going to be a freshman this year, he's already got college coaches reaching out to him. So his goal is to play in the MLB. That's a very difficult thing to do, but he's trying. He's going to give it his best shot. But the old man said to me when we were talking about, living for today, he said, the one thing he said he didn't tell his children enough, and he should have. And this was great advice. You're always telling your children, work for the goal. If you have a dream, work for that dream, go after it, work for that goal, try to achieve your goal. But the one thing he forgot, and the one thing that I've forgotten a lot, is to tell them, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. I mean, if you want to be, a movie star, if you want to be a baseball player, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be maybe living independent by yourself, if you want to work at a grocery store, your goal is just to have a job or just to live independently or whatever it may be, work to get to that goal, but enjoy your life, enjoy the ride, because so many people spend so much time making plans for the future. You're planning, planning, planning. I got to save money. I got to buy a house. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, wow, okay, I'm 70 years old. My health is failing. I'm at the end. And I know for the younger people out there, I felt this way when I was, 20 years old. When you're 20 years old, 25 years old, you're like, yeah, I'm young. I'm never going to get old. It's not going to happen. That's a long ways away. And I mean, I guess technically it is a long ways away, but you will be surprised how quickly the years go. I mean, for me, it felt like yesterday I turned 18. I was a senior in high school. Next thing I went to college, then I'm 22. I'm like, wow, that went by fast, those 4 years. And then all of a sudden you start working, and all of a sudden, wow, look at 30 is right there. It's right around the corner. Hey, welcome, crazy, crazy lady. Good to see you. So, 30 is almost 30 is there. The next thing you know, you're 40. And it's funny, as you get older, for whatever reason, the years seem to pick up in speed. When I was young, 1 year took like, it felt like 10 years. When you're older, every year feels like, 10 minutes. It goes by that quickly. So I'm not sure exactly why that happens, but if I can give any of you any advice, enjoy the day, enjoy your family, live for today. Don't worry about tomorrow, because if you're worrying about tomorrow all the time, it'll steal your joy of today. So if you got family members out there, go give them a hug this weekend, go see them. Spend some time with them. Take your father out to lunch. Take your mother out to lunch. Take your grandparents out someplace. Go give them a hug. Tell them you love them, because life is short and you never know when you're going to lose somebody. And tell them that you can when you have the opportunity. So, hey, Crazy Kane, you know me. I'll talk forever. So I just wanted to welcome you to the show and see how you doing. So how you been, Crazy Kane?
See, it's not just me. There's another one who can't stop talking just like me.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I remember Old Man said that at one of his shows. He said he likes to have Dina, Joe, and Eric on because he can't go the entire time talking. I think if you put me in front of a microphone, I could probably talk till 10 o'clock at night without stopping. So I can't help myself. I'm
But at
all
the same
talking.
time, I think it's situational.
Yeah.
On certain situations, we can just go on and on and on, and we just can't stop.
Hey, so now, how you been? Did you guys get any of the remnants? I got Eric on here as well. I know that you're in Georgia and Louisiana. Did you guys get any of the remnants of this hurricane? Because it's hitting us today with a lot of rain.
No,
No?
I
not
think
in
we only got like
Louisiana.
the western portions of Elsa. But I know me and Kane probably got a dumping of rain when we had Claudette come through 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we didn't see that one at
Actually,
all.
I didn't.
No.
Uh,
We just got a stack of thunderstorms from the high. that's sitting over us, like
Yeah,
sitting and just dumping the devil's sweat on top of us because it's so freaking hot.
all right. You know what? I got to do one more. Hold on.
Uh,
Since you're here and you're talking now, I got to do one more. Here it is. Oh, if you're doing it at the same time, it's like it's in stereo now. Oh my god! Wow, this is kind of creeping me out, man. I don't know. All right, hey, all right, guys. I got to tell you a little bit of another funny story coming up. Yeah, I see crazy old lady talking about humidity is a killer. We get a lot of humidity up here in Massachusetts in the summer as well. All right, let me tell you a funny story, guys. You guys are going to like this now. Now, I think I told you last year, and I think I may have told stories about this guy's weekend that I do every year. Now, next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, I'm getting in my car and I'm driving up to Rangeley, Maine, which is about 5 hours north of where I live in Massachusetts. And every time I go up there, we see moose, we see, a lot of wildlife. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. And ready for this name now. The lake that we go to is called, get ready, Lake Mooselook Maguntic is the name of the lake. So that's where we go. And this year we have, I think it's 16 of my childhood guy friends that are all coming up. One guy flies in from Colorado. We have, the morning drive sportscaster out in K-Fan in Denver. I've known him since we were kids. So we've got 16 guys all coming out. Now, the funny part of the story this year is generally we rent pontoon boats. There's a place, a really nice lodge that rents out pontoon boats, and you go out on the lake and we spend the day out there, drinking beer and whatever, hanging out, just talking about childhood memories. So I was told this year that they were only able to get, I guess, one pontoon boat. And the host of the weekend has another boat that's small that only has maybe like 4 people you can get on that boat. So I was thinking of the guys that go on this trip. Now, for those of you can't see me, and I prefer it that way. I don't really like Twitch and all those different things because I like being behind the microphone without video. But for me, I'm 6'4", probably about 275 pounds. I played college football, and we have a bunch of guys that are really big. So the jokes started coming yesterday. We have like a group text of people. And I think the best response was when the guy told us we can only get one pontoon boat. One of the guys chimed in with a text saying, well, hopefully it's powered by like nuclear power or nuclear energy. And my comment was, man, with all of us on that boat, that thing's going down like the Titanic. So I'm not sure how we're going to pile. God knows how much weight, probably 2,000 pounds on this pontoon boat. I mean, I think it's almost impossible to sink a pontoon boat, but if there's any chance of anybody sinking a pontoon boat, this could be the weekend where we just bring this thing down. But kind of scary to think of like all these old fat guys on a pontoon boat. I know, you're right, exactly. I think that's what's going to happen. But I mean, I could tell you stories. We've literally been going up to Rangeley, Maine for 30 years. So, I mean, it started after we graduated high school. We started going up, and we've had bachelor parties up here. We've had guys' weekend where we've had 20 guys, other ones where we've only had 6 guys. I remember, being young, being up there and having a couple of our friends doing a race down one of the dirt roads. They were both driving their vehicles with one person holding onto the roof of the cars as they were racing each other. I mean, we did a lot of stupid things when we were young, but now we're all old men. So now you see, instead of us staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning and getting drunk, you see like old men falling asleep by the campfire at like 10 p.m. now with a beer in their hands. So the weekends have changed over the years. Cummings, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Things are going well, buddy. I talked a little bit about what's going on, with my father-in-law, and we got through the wake and the funeral the last 2 days, and it was hard, but we're doing okay. I mean, it was a tough weekend, tough week. He was, certainly the patriarch of the family and a heck of a guy. He really was, and we're going to miss him very, very much. But I'm glad that we were able to get past everything, and my wife is doing better. But it was hard. I mean, he was a good man. His grandchildren loved him. I loved him. My entire family loved him. He was really the glue that kept my wife's entire family together. And when I say entire family, he had 4 brothers and a lot of cousins and things like that. He was kind of the glue for everybody. So let's see. Don't forget to forever to crawl out of the sleeping bag. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know where we're going to sleep this year. This year we've got like a different house up in Rangeley, Maine. Normally we get 2 houses and there's quite a bit of sleeping accommodations, but apparently they rented those houses out to somebody else this year. So we've got one house with like 16 guys. I'm sure I'm going to get no sleep with the snoring and the other bodily noises that are going to be coming out, during that weekend. God knows what it's going to be like. I'm sure there's going to be a whole lot of snoring, a whole lot of this, all hours of the night and everything else. I don't know. So it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's good to see old friends, and that even goes back to the theme about what I was talking about earlier. There was a span of time where for about 6 years I did not go to this weekend. And I didn't go because my four kids were young. My wife was working. I was working. We were busy. I didn't have the time. And then a couple years ago, we lost one of my friends. It was actually my good friend's older brother, Rick, only in his early 50s. He had a heart attack and he died. And that really hit me like a ton of bricks. I was actually pretty friendly with him, and he was a good guy. The last year I went to Rangeley, he and I rode up together in my car. And when I realized when he passed away, it made me really think. I'm like, man, I'm getting to be the age now where some of my friends, if I only see them once a year, who knows? It could be the last time I see them. So the last 3 years, the last 2 years, 3 years counting this year, I've gotten back with the guys weekend. And I'll tell you, unless something drastic happens, I will never miss another one if I can, because I've got some good friends that I grew up with since literally some of them since preschool. Like my friend Mike, who is the sportscaster out in Denver. He's the morning drive guy on KFan in Denver. Mike Evans is his name. He's a pretty well-known sportscaster. But he and I have been friends literally since preschool. Preschool, that long. We went to preschool together. And crazy lady it is. Time is always counting down. Time is always counting down. And that's my point to everybody out there. I know for the younger people out there, you feel like you have all the time in the world. And just keep in mind, things like the things that don't matter. I need to buy the Mercedes. I need to get the bigger house. I need to have a coach purse. I need to have a new sports car. I need to have all these different things. Those things are nice. And if you have a ton of money and you can afford all that stuff, awesome. But honestly, those things are not worth, stressing yourselves over. It's not worth trying to impress people out there that don't matter. And that's what all those things are for. I mean, there are people out in this world, you drive by, a group of people in your Porsche, they look and they're like, oh, wow, great car. He must be rich. I mean, who really cares about that? Does that really matter? What really matters are the loved ones in your life, your parents, your siblings, your
I'd agree.
grandparents.
Yeah.
Because I know Cummings recently lost a grandfather who was like a father to him. And when you lose loved ones, that's it. It's over. And you don't get to spend any more time with them. So time is literally the most precious thing we all have. And don't waste it. Don't waste it. I mean, that doesn't mean though, hey, the gray area, that doesn't mean, if you want to sit on the couch one day watching Netflix all day, that doesn't mean you're wasting your life. But, make sure you spend your life the way you want to spend it, and make sure you take time for family always, no matter how busy you get. If you've got old friends, if you've got family, if you've got older parents, whatever, spend the time with them while you have, because when they're gone, it's going to mean a lot to you. You don't want to have any regrets in life. And, it's funny, one of the things I think about a lot, and I've thought about this for the last 20 years, like I've passed up on jobs where I would have gotten paid a lot of money. And I passed up on these jobs in which I would have had to travel a lot. Also I had to pass up on some because of my wife's career as well. We couldn't always both be gone and be parents. But for me, I've always thought about this. If I'm down in Florida when I'm 78 years old, and I'm on the shuffleboard court playing shuffleboard, playing pickleball, whatever the game is at that time, what do I want to think about? And what regrets do I not want to have? I don't want to be down on that pickleball court saying, boy, I really missed all those games my kids played in. I missed, all these different things that, that in my wife's life and my kids' life, I didn't spend time with my parents. I didn't want to have those regrets. I don't think I would have had any regret about saying, well, I didn't work overtime. I didn't make X amount of dollars in 2018. I don't think any of those things would ever make my list of regrets. So, again, spend the time with the people while you can. And, I don't know, just try to enjoy your life. That's what it's all about. Eric and Crazy, what do you guys think? I mean, I'm sure you guys have a lot of wisdom on this as well. What are your feelings
I
on
agree.
what's important in life?
Family. Plain
Mm-hmm.
and simple. Family. However, no one can choose certain family members.
True.
They either want to be a part of your world or not.
True.
If not, c'est la vie. Those who want to be a part of the world, of your life, and whatever happens down the road, nice having you on the road trip, on the crazy train. You know, in the end, it's family. People have lost sight of what family means. But as far as friends getting together, it sounds like a toga party. Sounds like Animal House. So what time is the toga party, John?
And I've been to a toga party before. Toga parties are pretty fun. I've been to one of those in college, so I've done that. But you made a good point though, and this is something that people do need to keep in mind too. If you have toxic people in your life, if you have toxic people in your family, you don't want to always spend time chasing those people, because you will have people in your life, friends, family, that take all the time, and they never give back. So I know that sometimes that's a very difficult thing to do, but sometimes you do have to make hard choices, because if you do have someone in your life that's taking all the time and not giving anything back to you and not making you feel good about yourself, and if you have someone that's abusing you emotionally or physically, I mean, obviously those are the people in your life that you want to stay away from. I mean, life's too short to be with someone that doesn't treat you right. Again, if you maybe got married and you married the wrong person, I mean, that does happen. It does happen. I had bad relationships. I only got married once, but I certainly had other girlfriends, and they didn't work out. And if I had married them, it would have resulted in divorce, because we just weren't compatible with each other. But yeah, if you have someone in your life that's toxic, you can't spend your life with a toxic person, no matter who it is. And I know friends that have had to make that decision sometimes with a parent, where they've had to cut ties with a parent because they had a very toxic parent. I mean, for me, I had a dad that was very abusive when I was young, but we were able to kind of put things together, and I learned how to understand him a little bit better about some of the things he went through in his life. And he and I were able to form a pretty good relationship later on in life and became friends. So luckily, we were able to transition to that. But it's not possible for everybody, and I get that. So that was a good point you made, Crazy Kane, when you mentioned that, because there are certain people that you just kind of have to say goodbye to, unfortunately. Now, Eric, how about you? I know you're a big family man. What can you tell us about family and the importance of that to you?
Yeah, you know, I know that like with my family situations, like am I estranged from certain loved ones? Yes, I am. Am I proud of it? No, but I mean, but people have to know that when it comes to situations like mine, and I'm sure even Crazy Kane could relate, that people are just not alone. It runs in just about every family. Um, but but I also I think another plus is having friends to serve as a great source of moral support. You know, especially when you don't have like the best of family situations either. And I know I have friends that I've met in real life that were great source of moral support, and then friends I've met here on the podcast I may have not have had the privilege of meeting in real life, but because spiritually I sense yeah, for example, y'all are like really good people, and we all look out for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked about that quite a bit here. And for me, this has just been it's been a very, very good experience, me being on Podbean. I mean, my show started at the beginning of the pandemic. It was kind of funny the way it
Hmm.
worked out. I was watching the TV show Roswell. I was watching that with my daughter before I did any of the podcasts. And I remember I looked into podcasting several years ago, and you had to just record podcasts, and that's how I thought they still were. So I saw a guy broadcasting live on the show Roswell, a podcast. And I said to my daughter, I'm like, what's he doing? She's like, oh, he's doing a podcast live. I'm like, you could do that? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I didn't even know you could do that. So I think it was the next day I got on Podbean, and I had an account that I had never used. So I logged on and realized you could actually do live shows. And then maybe a couple days later, I did my first 25-minute show, and I didn't even know what I was doing. It was kind of funny. It's whenever I go into a new show now, like I see someone that's got like maybe 2 or 3 listeners total, I go in and they're always surprised that people come into the chat room. And I remember doing that
Hmm.
initially, where I saw people popping in. I'm like, why are people coming in here? I don't get this. I didn't know that people were actually coming in and listening like they were. And I remember doing that in my first show, going, I think somebody's here. I have to go back and listen to that first show. But Podbean has been a strange thing for me, where, I'm used to making friends in person, but this has been just awesome, where I've met people from all over the country and all over the world. Eric, you're one of my first and best friends here. You and I have been at this. I think we joined at about the same time. And, I always really have appreciated you as a person, and so many of the other people that
Hmm.
I've met. I mean, Dean and Joe from the Old Man's podcast. When my son Matt graduated from high school, she sent him a card with money. I mean, she has never met my family. She doesn't know my son. My daughter, when she's had some difficult times, she sends my daughter cards with inspirational messages. And, there are just so many
Hmm.
wonderful people. Cummings, I text with him on a regular basis. Mike from Tampa Bay. I don't want to leave anybody out. Way back in the beginning, Sinister Breed, everybody. It's just amazing to think of what this has meant to me over the last year. When I have a difficult time in my life, like right now, my father-in-law passed away. I feel like I want to come on and just talk to everybody, and that's what this has become to me. It's become, a digital version of friendship. It's been, and hopefully someday we can meet in person. I think it would be great if we get a chance to meet sometime in
Hmm.
person. But even if we don't, even if this is what it is, it's been something that has enhanced my life. It's been something that has been there for me. And it's also, like I said, I wanted to be on the radio when I was younger, and this has helped me kind of live out a dream that I'd long forgotten about. Let's see. I see Crazy Lady talking about her fat fingers. I've got the same problem. When I type on my iPhone, it's like a train wreck. Every time I type, thank God for autocorrect. Let's see. The gray area, small taste of fame. When I go live, right? Exactly. It's kind of cool. They see your stats and they freak out. It's humbling. Yeah, the gray area is got a great show. Cummings is culture, another, Podbean legend here. Let's see. He had to take down a TikTok last night because I made a joke about Trump and people lost their minds. You would have died at the comments. Oh, dude, I'm in trouble all the time. Some of you probably see it who follow me on Twitter. I've been stalking like Gwen Berry, that track star from the hammer throw that's going to be in the Olympics, the one that turned her back on the national anthem. I've been going on to all of her posts just saying she's a racist because I think she is. So I've been kind of bad. But you're right. I get in trouble all the time. I'm limited on Facebook on the account I have. I get in trouble all the time on Twitter. I've been shut down a few times on TikTok also for being inappropriate. So that's me. That's me. I don't know. I don't know. I got to learn to be better, I guess. But I guess this is a good place for me. So, but yeah, man, were they really, Jeremy? People are telling you to kill yourself? That's nice. Oh my God, Facebook jail. I've been in Facebook jail so many times. I actually had a primary Facebook account that I got rid of finally. I was on Facebook forever. I dumped it around the election. I haven't been back. But I have a separate Facebook account for work because I have all these company Facebook pages I have to monitor. So I have that where I have like literally no friends. But then, for those of you guys that don't know, if you're on Facebook, if you like a funny page, I run a page. It's my page called The Pussification of America. I think I've got 37,000 followers on that page. And it's pretty funny. Like, if you get a good sense of humor and you're not offended easily, I would suggest getting on and following that page. I post a lot of political stuff and, things against toxic masculinity and all that stuff. So it's a pretty funny page. And, certainly I get in trouble for that all the time. They fact check me. Right now, I can't invite any new people to it. They limit the number of people that see my posts, everything. So it's crazy.
Well,
But
and I was really thrilled with the news 2 days ago that former President Donald Trump has finally decided to launch a class action lawsuit against Facebook, Twitter, and Google and their CEOs.
thank God.
He's going to challenge that 230 protection because I think, of course, emails that him and his legal teams have obtained, from these entities, it's apparent that these companies may very well have waived their Section 230 protection to the point that I think that Section 230 needs to be repealed now more than ever. And if you think Section 230 and then the censorship practices ain't happening here on Podbean, you might want to think again because it's happened to Ralph, it's happened to Dark Bear, it's happened to Cummings and to Slightly and a few other friends.
And
Uh huh.
and this is something I know. I've got people in here that are Republicans, people that are Democrats, people that are independent, people that just don't give a damn either
Mm-hmm.
way. But the bottom line is, regardless of which way you fall politically, things like censorship, things like integrity in elections, those things
Mm-hmm.
matter to everybody. Because once the government starts allowing companies, and these companies, let's face it, they're private companies, but they're huge entities that are extensions of government, they're extensions of free speech. You
Mm-hmm.
you can't allow companies to censor one group of
Yeah.
people, whatever group that is. If they were
Mm-hmm.
censoring Democrats, you can't let that happen. If they were censoring Asian Americans, you can't let that happen. In the Constitution, it says we get free speech, and you can't have any entity, especially something as
Yeah.
powerful as these social media platforms, who are censoring people. Now, there are so many things that go into this, but it's the same thing with elections. I mean, there were accusations that Donald Trump cheated in the election. And then there were accusations now that Joe Biden cheated in the elections. So over the last two elections, there have been widespread claims of cheating. So for me, if Trump cheated, if Biden cheated, if Hillary Clinton cheated, if Bill Clinton cheated, if Ronald Reagan cheated, if any of these presidents, if Barack Obama cheated, I want to know. I want to know, because we're being sold a bill of goods that we live in a free country. And if the elections
Okay.
are being determined but for us by our government, then we are no different than China. We're being given our dictators. We believe in this country that maybe we have some sense of independence and freedom, but it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat
Thanks
or
for
a
that,
Republican.
Michael.
It does, because, Michael, thank you for those. I appreciate that. But it's so true. I mean, it doesn't matter what side you're on. We need to have integrity in this country. And I think also, we've talked about this in the past on my show, and I see it more and more, the division that's happening in this country, I think solely because of the media, the mainstream media that's being run by the ultra wealthy. They are dividing us. They are having us fight. And we've talked about this
Mhm.
before, men against women, black against white, gay versus straight. We're being separated, we're being divided. And as Sun Tzu said, we're being divided and conquered. And that's what they want. They want a people that's divided. They want a people that cannot stand together. Because if we truly had black and white people working together, if we had gay and straight people loving each other and working together, if we had people of all different races and backgrounds and economic situations working together, then they would no longer have control over us. And if you think that this isn't being done with purpose, you're wrong. It is being
Mhm.
done with purpose, and they don't give a damn about us. If you think any of these people in Washington, I'm talking any of them, really, really care about you, they don't care. They don't care. If you think the ultra wealthy in this country care about you, they don't care.
Mhm.
It's time for us to care about ourselves. It's time for us to come together and let
Yes.
these small minority of people who are controlling things, let them know that we are in charge. This is our country. And I'm not saying by revolution, I'm not saying with insurrections, I'm not saying with violence, but we need to stand together with solidarity as one and let the government know that this is our country, and we demand freedom and we demand certain things. And I think if we can do that, then we are going to be a better country. If not, we're going to be continued to be led down this rabbit hole of division and
Mhm.
separation and just control that we're all facing right now. So go ahead, guys. I know I'm rambling on, but I wanted to get that.
Well, and I would think, regardless of whether you're a Biden supporter or a Trump supporter, the last time we read the Constitution under freedom of speech, that means you have the freedom to love or hate whoever you want, or whatever you want. And then and I know, like Kane, he'll admit that he's not a big Trump or Biden supporter, and he's had it happen to him, and I know Jeremy is living proof of how internet censorship has affected him and other people that he's been around and talked to.
Oh yeah, I mean, I see it. Go on my page on Facebook, the
I
Pussification
mean,
of America.
yeah, it's happened to you.
It's mostly a Republican page. Because again,
And it's a big double standard, to say the very least.
it is, and for me, I was a Democrat most of my life. I mean, my family's are Democrats. My parents are Democrats.
Same
My wife,
here.
I'm a
my wife voted
Democrat.
for Biden. My wife voted for Biden. But for me, I turned the other way with Bill Clinton when he pointed his little bony finger at us and told us he didn't cheat on his wife. Not that I gave a rat's ass what he did in his private life, but I didn't like it when he pointed his finger and almost threatened us, but lied to us point blank. I remember that really turned me off. And at that point,
Yeah.
that's when I went in the other direction. But
But and I think another thing about that whole Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky scandal is, yes, what happened between him and Monica Lewinsky was something that was supposed to have stayed between him and his wife. But if what happened between him and Monica Lewinsky happened in the White House, that we as Americans, that becomes our business. because the White House is the people's house.
But that's the thing. I mean, that's what people have forgotten in this country. Where the government is spending all this stimulus money and they're doing the things that they're doing to hopefully get things back on track. And maybe they have good intentions. Maybe they really want to improve things for everybody. You would like to believe that's the case. But you have to remember that that's not their money that they're spending. That is our money. That is our money that you've all worked for. And you've gone to work. They've taken that out of your taxes. They take it when you pump gas. They take it when you drive on the roads. They take it in excise tax. They take it in sales tax, in real estate tax. I mean, that is your money that you've worked for, that the government has taken from you. So they're basically just giving you back a portion of your own money. And, that's one thing that these people need to remember. I mean, the White House, the school buildings, I mean, everything that is government related, we pay for that. That's ours. That's ours. We have paid for these buildings. We pay their salaries. They are not our bosses. They are here to represent us. Our founding fathers started this country with the expectation that they would be servants of the people, not us being servants of them, because that's what we traded when we separated from England and the UK. We were their servants. We were paying them tariffs. And how is this any different? Right now, our government is acting like a monarchy, and they're acting like we are their servants, and our money is their money, and that's not the case. And we've talked about this over and over again in the show, and I didn't mean for this to get political, but we went down this way, so I'll go there. I would love to see. I know we've talked about this before. I would love to see term limits. I would love to see term limits on all politicians. I would love to see every politician in this country. This is not meant to be your only job. If you want to be a politician, if you want to be a senator, if you want to be in the House, if you want to be president, we'll pay you $50,000 a year. We'll give you health care while you're in office, and that's it. And you may need to work another job in order to support your political career, but we're not going to pay you $200,000 a year. We're not going to give you lifetime health insurance, and you get 2 terms and you're out. That's it. You don't get to spend 40 years, governing the country. You get 8, and then you're out, and then we bring new people in. I'd love to see that. Go ahead.
I even heard somebody mention a novel idea about like our elected officials in the House and Senate. It ought to be like NASCAR, like the NASCAR uniforms that the NASCAR drivers wear their sponsors. I think our congressmen and congresswomen and senators should be required by law to wear their sponsors on their clothing. So we could see who's bought and paid for by them.
Do it. You're welcome for that, Eric.
Hey, Jeremy, it's funny. I tapped you in, I forgot about you, and your little icon didn't appear, and it just appeared. So I forgot you were there.
Pod being sent active weird as usual. But hey, Jeremy.
Yeah. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. John, let me tell you something. Since you talk about politics, that's not. I posted a video.
We lost you for a second.
I posted a video. I made a video, and I was making it really as a joke, and it was about Trump and Biden, and I was like, oh, they were in cahoots together. It's all about the vaccine. Trump let Biden cheat because he knew he had to cheat because he knew he was going to win in a landslide. Anyway, it was just this big conspiracy, and I told people this is satire, right? So I put it up. Then like 20,000 people watch it. And you know how the right? Oh, dude, I got one that's got over 1 million views. You know how the right always accuses the left of cancel culture?
Oh, of course.
Dude, the people on the right last night were calling me a fucking liberal Democrat, saying that I should kill myself, that I was that I was a member of Antifa, that I was probably the ones that helped storm the Capitol. I mean,
shit.
Oh, dude, they were fucking brutal last night. They were commenting like, and I was like, we're always, and like, there were some Democrats that were, making stupid comments. Most of the Democrats got that it was a joke. But dude, some of these right-wing nuts that are out there, dude, let me tell you something. I found out last night. We got to do something about them because they can't even, you can't let them take over the party.
No.
I mean, they're out there, brother.
No, you've got
Mm-hmm.
some. I mean, on every side, you've got some left wing nutbags that are out there, but you get the same thing on the right side. You're right. It's crazy. You got right wing crazies out there also, and some of them have IQs of about 40, maybe if they're lucky. And you're right, but I
Correction.
mean, we need to come back to a point, and I don't know how we're going to get there, but we need to come back to a point in this country where hopefully both sides can learn to respect each other a little bit and learn to work together. And, right now, as far as my life goes, this has been the most divided I have ever seen our country. And I don't know if there's a way to fix it. I don't know if there's a person that can come in and fix that. But I think we do need sweeping changes in the way our government is run. Because if things don't change, I don't think things are going to get better. And again, going back to what we talked about 15, 20 minutes ago, where the politicians and the rich want us divided and conquered. They kind of want this to a point. They want us to be divided. They want us not working together. So unless we make the change is never going to happen. Now, I don't know if any of you saw this. Now, Cummings, Crazy Kane, Eric, comment when I'm done about this. Let me know if you saw this. But I live, as you know, in Massachusetts. I live about an hour west of Boston. My sister, Susan, lives in a town about 10 or 15 minutes north of Boston. And you guys may have seen this on the news. I assume it made the national news. They pulled over, or actually, a van was pulled over on the side of the highway in the town that my sister lives in. And the police came up. They were putting cans of gas into the vehicle. It had run out of gas, so they were filling the gas tank. So the officer, if you see a car pulled over, they always pull behind you. And whenever I've had that happen to me, one time I had my 10-year-old son peeing outside the car, and a police officer pulls up behind me. I'm like, oh, great. He walks up. He goes, you guys okay? I'm like, yeah, my son had to pee. He's like, oh, okay, have a good day. And he took off. So he was fine. But this cop pulls up behind this vehicle, and they were putting gas in the gas tank with a gas can. And he looks inside. They had 11 men in this van. I believe they were all African American. 11 men. They were all wearing body armor. They had AK-47s. They had shotguns. They had ammunition and everything, all sitting in this vehicle. So obviously the officer asked the 11 of them to exit the vehicle. 9 of them ran into the woods off the highway. They escaped. So my sister last Saturday was in lockdown in the place that she lived. She couldn't leave her house because these guys were running around in Wakefield, Massachusetts. If you haven't seen this story, I think they're called The Rise of the Moors. I think this group is called The Rise of the Moors. But look up Wakefield, Massachusetts arrests, and it'll pop right up on the top of the news feed if you haven't seen this. But literally, these guys didn't have licenses for guns. They didn't have any gun licenses, didn't have any ammunition licenses. Up here in Massachusetts, there's a ban on high capacity magazines. You can only have 10 rounds in a magazine up here. They had, magazines with whatever rounds in them. They broke the law there as well. So these guys literally told the officers, we don't recognize your laws. We don't need to do what you tell us to do. We have right to carry guns. We're going to training in Maine, is what they said. So finally, after like a 5-hour standoff, they got the 9 guys out of the woods without any issue of anyone being shot. So now they've been appearing in court the last few days here in Boston, and they're interrupting the judges. They won't listen. They're being removed from court every time they go in. But here's a situation where you've got, I don't even know what side extremists they are. It seems like they're just like an anti-government extreme group. But they were literally riding up the highway with body armor on, AK-47s, military gear. They were pulled over and they escaped into the woods, in Wakefield, Massachusetts. And I think, to Jeremy's point, man, we got left-wing crazies, we got right-wing crazies, and then we just got overall crazies who are just nuts all together. And I'm kind of guessing maybe what this group is, but I don't know,
Dude,
man.
we got a
Crazy
Islamic.
Kane. Right? Go ahead.
We got an Islamic group here. They moved. They got kicked out of several different states. They move around the United States. They came here and bought 158 acres of land, and they wanted to set up their own police force and all this crap. Want to be able to pull over people and set up their own police force using Sharia law and all kinds of shit here. And I was at the gas station. This guy was telling me what they were going to do. I said, "You came to the wrong fucking place if you think you're going to be able to do that."
Right.
And dude, it got so bad out there. They bought a bunch of trailers or whatever, and they hadn't set up their police force yet because that's when the county was going to come down on them when they tried to set up their own police force. But they were letting them live out there, do their own thing. But dude, they had sewage, right? And it was backing up into the trailers, and there was like 15 to 20 kids living in these trailers,
Ugh.
and a lot of the kids were getting sick, and they didn't believe in taking them to the hospital, but they had their own little hospital thing built there, and they thought that they could treat the kids with Tylenol and stuff. And dude, some of the kids started dying. And you remember the Black Plague or whatever?
Of course. Yeah.
None of these kids had ever been vaccinated for anything, and they got it out there.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it was terrible. Eventually the county shut it down, and the state got involved, but it was there's nuts like that all over the country.
Well, look at some of the shows I've done on the boarding schools in the Midwest. You look at the abuse that had happened over all those different schools. And I did have recently, I haven't gotten to it because I've been busy with the funeral in the wake of my father-in-law, but I did have another person reach out to me that wants to come on and talk about what happened to her. And I may schedule that interview at some point. I haven't gotten a chance to write her back yet. I feel kind of bad that I haven't. But you look at the Christian boarding schools and all the abuse that happened there, and how basically everyone just accepts it out there. They accept it that these schools are abusing children, horribly abusing them. And it looks like finally, because of our friend there, she has helped to shed some light on some of these schools, but they exist all over the country. And it's just horrible that those things have been happening. And then, to take it another step, if you look at even what's happening on the border now, bear with me, my Democratic friends, I'm not dumping on Biden at this point. But if you look at all the tens of thousands of children that are still living in the border, and they're living in these horrible conditions of squalor, I'd like to know how many kids have actually died. We haven't heard any stories really about numbers of children that have died. But when you have 20,000 children living in those horrible conditions in the middle of a pandemic, you've got sex traffickers and other people. I mean, I have heard about children dying in the river as they were trying to come over and things like that. But we haven't gotten a real number as to how many children have died along the border. And I mean, who's looking out for those children? Who's looking out for them? I mean, you got, Kamala went over to El Paso, which is about 800 miles away from the actual border issue. So that was a nice little PR stunt, kind of like AOC in her white outfit, crying in front of the parking lot a couple of years ago. But, it breaks my heart when you see all the abuse that happens to the children. And really, you hear that people are supposed to care about them. But then when you see the actions, I mean, no one really gives a damn. No one really gives a damn. It's just heartbreaking, really, to see that, I don't know, man.
You know why Kamala went to El Paso?
Am I crazy Kane, or is it just me?
Well, you see, John, the problem is Mexico shits on its people.
Yeah.
So they come to us. They come to America because the commercials say, right, we will treat you better here. You have freedom of speech. You have freedom this, freedom that. And it's all smokescreen.
Smokescreen.
Sure, we have these things to a certain degree. You can't host your opinions. I'm a Democrat who hates Democrats because I think the Democrat Party has turned its back.
They have
on the people and its history. And I'm sorry, I'm against cancel culture stuff.
It's a free country.
Similar to what Cummings was talking about on TikTok. I've gone through something similar on Facebook when I hosted my opinion about statues of the Confederacy of people.
I know. Believe me. You remember, it may have been before you were on my show, but it was over a year ago. One of the more popular shows here on Podbean that isn't on quite as much anymore. I mentioned that I just didn't think statues should be torn down. And when I mentioned that, man, I got ripped by this show. And my only point was, it doesn't mean that I support what the statue stands for, but if you're tearing down statues, you're tearing down history. And it's funny, the same people that thought we should tear down all these statues, for the Civil War and things like that, are the same people who are putting up statues of George Floyd now. And again, I personally think George Floyd was murdered. I think it was a terrible situation. I think the police officer made a very bad decision. Does that mean George Floyd was a good guy? No, he was a drug addict. He was a criminal. He was a bad guy. but his life was taken. But does that mean that we should have a statue of George Floyd put up? I mean, I don't think he's the type
I
of
don't
guy that
think
maybe
so.
symbolized being a statue. But so from what the left is saying, you're going to tear down these statues of people that represented bad things, but now we're going to put up a statue of a guy that represented bad things. So I'm not sure how that adds up, you know?
I can understand Martin Luther King. I can understand um, somebody that's actually done something. But when we get back in track with history, and these people who paid their dollars to support heroes that fought, and I know a lot of people are gonna say, but they fought to keep slavery.
Yeah.
If you actually do your history, yes, slavery was terrible.
Terrible.
But the majority of everyone who fought in the South were not slave owners, were not plantation owners, they were farmers. And it's like the old saying goes, to the winner goes the spoils. They write the history they want. You
Yep.
lose culture. You don't hear about certain things. So I would like to invite you, John, to kind of see what Crazy does on Discord, because I have a few history things I post in my Discord. So, and you can see where I'm kind of going with this, get a better grasp if I'm not explaining it right. But people, if we keep this cancel culture going, then we're hurting ourselves. We're hurting this nation.
We are. We are.
Well,
I
and
mean,
this cancel culture is going to eventually crumble under its own weight.
it is, but I mean,
you know that gets me though. I mean, the cancel culture. What bothers me the most about it. I mean, again, there's a lot of things that bother me about it, but right now, the cancel culture is one way. If you have someone that's on the right and they do something you don't like, they're canceled. But you have someone like Gwen Berry, who not only turned her back on the national anthem, but if you look her up, she has made countless racist comments against Asians, against a variety of different people over the years, and her sponsors in the Olympic Committee are ignoring that. The same thing with the new Victoria's Secret spokesperson, Megan Rapinoe, who is on the U.S. soccer team. I'm sure you've probably have seen the comments she made. I mean, they made her the spokesperson of Victoria's Secret. And honestly, I could give a damn either way. If you have Giselle or Megan Rapinoe or Queen Latifah on the cover of Victoria's Secrets, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't affect my life. But Megan Rapinoe has also made comments about Asian people. So if you're going to cancel all these people, if you're going to pick and choose who you're going to cancel, shouldn't you be canceling all these other people that make racist comments? Now, the way I look at it's a little bit differently. Everyone in their life makes mistakes. We all do. Left, right, man, woman, gay, straight. We all say things we shouldn't say. Maybe we shouldn't be out to destroy people when they make one poor comment. With Megan Rapinoe, she made a comment about Asian people she probably shouldn't have made. All Asian people look like they have closed eyes, she said. And it was on Twitter 10 years ago. She said something stupid. You don't know what the context of it was. How about we don't ruin her life? Just like, with Donald Trump, he's made comments. Maybe you don't ban him from all forms of social media. You look at Gwen Berry. She turned her back on the national anthem. Maybe she shouldn't be canceled, but maybe she should be told by the Olympic Committee or the U.S. Olympic team that, listen, if you're representing the country, then you need to stand and salute the flag during the national anthem. I mean, we're not talking about, you're not playing, town softball in her hometown where it doesn't matter if you're standing for the national anthem. You're representing the United States of America on the world stage. And I'm sorry, but one of the prerequisites of being on that team is you need to respect the flag and respect the country. And if you can't do that, play for somebody else. Now, Crazy Ken, you talked about the immigrants coming over. And I'm going to wrap this up probably in about 10 minutes. So let me just give you that little warning. But I could do my commercial, and I'm going to do this off the cuff. But my commercial, if I was America, this is what should really be said to the immigrants from Mexico coming over. All right? Here it is. Immigrants from Mexico come to the United States. We will give you welfare. That's right, free money. You don't have to work. Welfare. We're going to pay you to sit home, not to work, and you're going to have a place to live because we're going to give you Section 8. That's going to pay for your housing. So you're going to get free money to live. You're going to get Section 8 housing. And then on top of it, we're going to give you food stamps. We're going to pay for your food. You don't have to be disabled. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to be unable to work. We're going to bring you this into this country and we're going to give you life for free. How does that sound? Does it sound great? Excellent. Sign on the dotted line. But now we're not going to show you the small writing on the next page. The small writing on the next page says, we're going to give you all this stuff, but remember, when it comes time to vote, you need to vote for the Democratic Party, because if you don't, the Republicans are going to take all of that away from you. So when you come to this country now, don't forget, we're going to give you all this free money. But remember now, when you're sitting on the couch every day drinking beer and watching Netflix, your children, probably 7 of them, are going to sit there and watch you drinking beer and watching Netflix. So your children are not going to learn to be productive members of society. They're going to learn to sit home and watch Netflix and drink beer as well. So your children are also going to be on welfare. Your children are also going to be on Section 8. Your children are also going to be on food stamps. And guess what? Your grandchildren are going to learn the same thing. So generation after generation, when you come to this country, you are going to be dependent on the money that we give you. And damn it, if you don't vote our way, we're going to take that money away from you. So you need to keep voting the way we want you to vote, or you lose your benefits. That's called being part of a dependent society. This is the small print that we're not going to tell you about. This is going to talk about a family that has no self-esteem. It's going to talk about a family that loses the ability to go out to work because they've been sitting at home alone so long. And guess what? We may not put you in chains anymore. We may not make you slaves anymore, but this is the new version of slavery. It's right in front of you. Yeah. We hand it to you, and now you are dependent on us, and you are our slaves. You are our bitches. We own you, and that's the way it goes. So that should be the small print in the ad where we're giving everybody free money in this country, because that's what it comes down to. And like I've said many, many times, I have a son with autism. He gets Social Security. If there are people out there that have a disability, I don't even like the word disability, I should say a challenge. If there's people out there that have a challenge that they can't afford to live on their own, if you can't afford to work, take some of my money and give it to these people. I want them to have it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. People that need help. If there's a mother of 5 children whose husband left her or died, and she's working 2 jobs and she's trying to put food on the table, give that woman some help. Give that woman some help, and I don't mind that coming out of my paycheck. But when you got people who are sitting home, who are able-bodied, who can go to work and do their job, I don't want my money going to them because I'm working my ass off to make that money. And I'm okay with the government that helps people, but not a government that creates dependent people. Go ahead.
Well, but the point you're making is, as I think every American should be living the way that about what is going on. And because like I would be in that camp too. That Rathanoy, you're going to need to mute your mic because we're getting a lot of feedback from you, my friend.
There we go. Thank
you. Because you and me and Kane and other friends, we don't think it is right, for our government to be encouraging people to game and work the system like this and abuse it to the point that that they're teaching their children and grandchildren, like, hey, it's okay, and then hardworking people like you, John, because that right there is a big slap in the face, because they're people who are way more needy than those greedy bastards who
remember who like the walks I take. I see all these people who are living out on the streets of Massachusetts, and most of them have mental illness. Why aren't these people help? It breaks my heart. I literally come home and I have tears in my eyes thinking about these people who are living next to dumpsters with tarps over them. And I'm like, why are these people living like this? They're mentally ill. They're not getting the help that they need. Take some of my money and give it to these people. Give it to the people that need the help.
Give it to people who are way more needy.
Right. Give it to the people that need it.
I have the answer.
Please go ahead.
I have the answer. People like the homeless, people that we want to, us regular folk who actually grew up, help each other out. The government says, put that back in your pocket. Those people are undesirable. Those people cannot be helped. Those people are this, those people are that. It's the same thing they've been doing for generations and
True.
generations.
Very true.
They tell you, oh, you can help this person, but this person may not need help. And, I like that commercial you cut, but also keep in mind that's how they got a good bit of our ancestors here, too. Our
Well,
ancestors were told,
yes.
sign
Now,
these
hold on now.
documents.
Yes, and no. Now, for my grandparents. Now, my grandfather came over from Italy in the 1900s, and he came over here. He went through Ellis Island. Now, again, it may have been easier to become a citizen then, and that's another whole argument we can make, where maybe our government isn't doing the things they need to do to actually allow citizens in an easier legal path, and that's something I think should happen. But my grandfather came in through Ellis Island. He was a legal immigrant. My grandfather worked
I'm
his
talking
entire
about like
life in
way
factories.
before the
Yeah,
Ellis Island, though.
right.
Before they even made that. I'm talking about way back in the
Way
gap.
back. Okay. Okay.
Way back.
Yeah, can I say
Yeah.
something?
Because, go ahead.
Yeah. Like I would like to say something because this is actually a very important topic because there are lots of people's like I have researched these things like more than 80% of the Americas are got depression. They have the depression more like 80% of the Americans. And I have asked this kind of questions to one Americans that you have all the resources, you have all the facilities, but still you have still you have the depression. Why? Like that American says that like even if we have everything, it doesn't mean that we are not depressed. We are depressed. We have everything. We have all the resources. We have all the facilities. Still, we are depressed. So according to me, it there must be like according to me there are only two solutions. Like first of all, like let's talk about like poor versus rich and rich versus poor. So if we want to remove these kind of disparities, see, like poor peoples do not want food from you, poor peoples do not want security from you, poor peoples just want opportunity from you. Like if you talk
Yes.
about like feminism are not talking about something else. Feminism are talking about the equal opportunity, right? But governments are not giving opportunity to them, and they haven't give proper facilities and fundamental facilities, because you cannot express, like you cannot have any kind of a skill, you cannot have any kind of ability or talent or quality if you do not have the fundamentals things with yourself. Like if you do not have the food, then you do not want to become a dancer, you do not want to become a singer. First of all, so you have to eat, then you can think about those kind of stuff, then you can think about the education, then you can think about becoming a dancer, becoming a singer. If you do not have the food, then how you can think about becoming a dancer and trying to improve something in the education systems and this kind of stuff. So if the governments give the fundamental things like the food and water and this kind of clothing and shelter, this kind of simple fundamental stuff, then I think that this is the kind of opportunity that poor people got from the government. And if they got the opportunity, nobody's have to say anything to them. They will express himself or herself because they found an opportunity. So poor people's, like if we want to remove this kind of disparities, we just have to give fundamentals things so that they can use as a tool to find an opportunity or to create an opportunity. And the another thing that I would like to say is that, so like
Hey,
Americans, they have
hold on
this
one
kind of.
second. Hold on one second. I just
Hey,
want to
Chris.
know. I want to say that what you said was very, very well said, very intelligent, and I agree with a lot of points. I just want to address that before you move on to the next thing. No, I agree with you 100%. I think it is very important to give people the basic needs. However, I think what happens in this country, and it may be accidentally, maybe it's done on purpose, but you do have a lot of people that are given the basics, but then they do not have the opportunity. They grow up in an area where the schools are not funded, where there's a lot of violence in the streets, and you've got people who are joining gangs instead of pursuing becoming a
Yeah,
dancer or a lawyer or a doctor. So, from my perspective, you need to maybe have those basics, but you also need to make sure that the people who are living in those places also
yeah,
have an opportunity for a good education, have an opportunity
Hey, Bunty.
to get jobs. Because I think one of the problems that we've had in the past is we've had our government has been giving away jobs to India. They've been giving away jobs to China. And most of the jobs they've been giving away are manufacturing jobs. And as I was saying about my grandfather worked his entire life in factories. He worked in a plastic factory, he worked in a hat factory, he worked in shoe factories. And today, my grandfather would not have had those type of jobs for a man without an education in order to put food on the table for his family. And I think one of the reasons why my family was successful or has become successful over three generations is that my grandfather went to work every day and busted his backside. My father learned that work ethic from his father, and then I learned that work ethic from my father and my grandfather. And I think sometimes when the government just provides handouts and there are no opportunities for jobs for these people, they don't learn that work ethic. They learn to be dependent on the government, and they don't take advantage of whatever opportunities that may exist because they don't have the self-esteem, they don't have the family support, and they don't have the confidence to do so. So I agree with
Mhm.
you. I don't like to see anybody suffer. I mean, I think it's a horrible to think of any child
See,
going up without food,
Yes.
yeah,
but there needs to be opportunity
Mhm.
provided
yeah.
for these families so they can actually get out of the
Excuse me.
cycle of poverty. So go ahead with your next point, but I just wanted to address that really quickly. So go ahead.
So like one thing that I would like to say is that, like, it is said by Robert Frost. He's an American poet. He said
Wonderful
one thing
poet.
is that, like, this is the same thing, like the in the poet, like the road not taken. It is the name of the poet. It
Yeah.
is the name of the poem, and I understand one thing from that poetry. Like he said in a very clear manner, in a very simple manner, like the most Americans, like if you do some research, like 80% of the Americans are depressed. And this is one of the reason. There could be so many reasons, but this is one of the reason. The more choices you have, the more the confusion you have. And the more confusion you have, the less confidence you have. And when you have less confidence, you want to do negative things, you want to do disastrous things, you want to do cruel things. So this also happens in American society. They have more choices. That's why they have more. That's why they are more confused. And because they have more confused, they have less confidence. And because they have less confidence, that is why, like as you have said, like there are lots of people join the gang and do ugly things, cruel things,
Right.
stubbornness, and all this kind of stuff. So this is
Yeah.
also one of the reason. And see, like we like I also know about America is that, like, education system, like education is very expensive in America. Like if you're
For
not
college. For college.
if you do
Yeah.
not yeah, if you do not have
Yeah.
large amount of money, you cannot study in Harvard. Even if you have certain quality, even if you have certain abilities, but you cannot study in
See,
Harvard or
Michael.
like good university, even if you have the talent. So
Let me tell you this. I can tell you that. Now, where are you from? What country?
yeah, I'm from India.
Oh, India. Okay,
India.
wonderful. I have a lot of listeners from India, so thank you for coming into
Pardon me,
my
you're
show. I
leaving
really
us, Kane.
appreciate it. But let me tell you
Yeah.
this right now. I will validate exactly what you just said. Now, my wife is a doctor, and I have a good job as well. So my wife and I make a very good salary here in the United States. We have four children. My second child is very smart. She gets all A's in school. She's brilliant, very smart young woman.
See you, Kane.
If we want to send my daughter to Harvard, it will cost us 85,000 American dollars per year. So I don't know anybody that can afford $85,000 per year. I mean, that's basically she would get out owing what almost $400,000 in loans for an undergraduate degree, a bachelor's degree, which is the
Yeah.
basic requirement. So you're right. I mean, the colleges are almost unaffordable for almost all families unless you can get a scholarship or unless you're very wealthy. You know.
Yeah, like according to me, like education is not actually education. Education is like a tool that you can create an opportunity or to participate in opportunity. Like there are lots of people create their own stuff. There are lots of people participate in that stuff. Like there are lots of people create in applications like Facebook, and there are lots of people work under the company of Facebook. So it is like creating an opportunity and participate in opportunity. So we do not have to say like education is like reading things and this thing and that stuff. Education is like a tool. We have to consider education as a tool. We have to consider education as a weapon,
You're
and
right.
this weapon should have this weapon. It is very important to have this kind of weapon, because if you do not have this kind of weapon, like people think that education is about this thing and that stuff. That's why education becomes very expensive. If you just consider education as a tool, if you just consider education as a weapon, then people started to think that education must be decrease, like the money that people spend in education, it is too much huge, it is too much, it is like they're taking their life. They take the loans from the bank and they're unable to fulfill the bank, like they're unable to give the
Oh
bank
yeah.
money to the bank.
Well, I can tell you,
So
I fortunately I went to college and I got a scholarship for football. I played American football, so I went to school for free, which was good. My wife, when she got her medical school degree, she ended up getting out of medical school, owing I think close to $300,000 in medical school loans. So I'm a little bit older. I'm in my early 50s now, and we were able to pay those loans off. But I mean, that was a huge amount of money for us to owe. So if you want to buy a house, you buy a house and you owe that money, and then you owe the money for the college loans. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of money for us to pay in order to pay for her, to pay for her loans. So you're right. Now, let me ask you a question, because I'm going to wrap this show up in a little bit, but I want to ask you a little bit about India. So what are the colleges like in India? Are they very expensive? Are they free? What do the colleges cost in India?
see, like education is also quite expensive in India, and yeah, like if you have low amount of money, then like we have lots of options, like as you have, like if you are quite intelligent, and if you're quite intelligent, and if you do not have money, you cannot get an admission in a good college or university. So according to
Okay.
that, according to the availability of money, you have to choose a college, you have to choose a school, because there are lots of options. Like if you, it not depends upon your intelligence, it depends upon the accumulation of money that you have. So even if you're not intelligent, and if you have large amount of money, you can get an admission in Harvard. So
Yep,
in
same
like
here.
this
Same here.
kind of
Yep,
system
very
we
similar.
have.
Uh-huh.
Right.
but
Yeah,
but
Well,
one
listen.
like I
last,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah, and I
Go ahead.
remember like back when my grandmother was still alive. Like there was a lady that ran like a tobacco shop in the town that I used to live in, and this lady is originally from India along with her husband, and she went back home to India to have like a hysterectomy done because they found it was cheaper to have it done there versus having it done here in the States. And and then they have kids that they would prefer them going to college in India versus going to college here in the States, because I think the education system there isn't as expensive as it is here, even though they were earning a great living here in the States, like running small business.
yeah,
And I'm sure you
Okay.
probably have heard other stories like that before.
yeah,
All right. Well, listen. I appreciate you calling in,
But
and Eric, I want to give you
yeah,
a chance, Eric, because
and
we're
I think
getting close
another
to the end
point
of the time
I,
here.
I would I would make,
Go ahead.
John, about like the government creating this dependency system, like, and the question of who's paying for it. It's going to ultimately be honest, hardworking, taxpaying citizens who are footing the bill, and I think people have got to come to that realization. Like, wait a minute, this is not right.
Well,
Because we can't be throwing away money like this and expecting like a certain group to foot the bill for a group of people who either can't work or don't want to work.
Well, but again, for me, those are two separate issues. For me,
True,
for people that can't work,
that's
if you
true.
if you have a physical limitation, if you have an issue, a mental limitation, whatever, I think those people
But
should get help, and I don't mind my money going in that direction. Same as
but
if, like I said, if there's a woman whose husband left her, she's got 4 kids, she's working
mhm,
2 jobs, and she's going to night school because she wants to give her family a better life. I don't mind my money going to help someone like her because she's
mhm,
going out. But if you have someone that's sitting home, and this happens a lot, they're collecting
yeah,
welfare, but they're selling drugs. They're making cash on the side. They're
yeah,
doing jobs, and they have no intention of bettering their life. They're just taking advantage of the
yeah,
system. For those people,
mhm.
I don't want my money going in that direction. I want my money
And
going to the people who are out in the
yeah,
streets that have mental health problems that aren't getting
mhm.
assistance. That's where I want my money going.
I
So
think that basically where I'm coming from is,
yeah,
and another thing I know you and I would not be in support of is our government grooming that society of dependency,
no,
like
I think they
especially
do.
on people
yeah.
who don't want to work and want to just cheat the system. But we'll just save the rest of that conversation for another day.
All right, Eric. So thank you for calling in,
Yeah, like
Rhythm. And Eric, why don't you run off the shows that are coming up, and then we'll end this show.
I know like the Ralph
can
Williams
can I add
podcast.
something?
the Ralph Williams podcast is on live right now, so friends are welcome to go over there and check him out. The Old Man's podcast with Dina, Joe, and Eric will be going live in 30 minutes for its Friday morning Chit Chat with the Old Man show. And the Old Man will also be back later on this evening at 11 p.m. Eastern Time with his Friday night music show. And also coming up on Podbean Live later today and this weekend, you've got the Dark Woods with Dark Bear today at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But in the event that Podbean insists on shadow banning and censoring him, be on the lookout for me to post a tweet that his show is live and click on that link. And if it's not letting you into the show because we've heard other people saying this, save a screenshot of it and and email it to Dark Bear or email it to Podbean. Then coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today, you've got the Frankie D show, and then around 7 p.m. Eastern, be on the lookout for Cummings' Culture should he do his Friday show. And also on Friday, you've got The Swap Doesn't Lie and Chris Unplugs Club 19 music show in prime time. And this weekend, you've got Crazy Kane with Crazy's Crosstalk Asylum. You've also got the Turfy show and the It's Doomsday podcast, Tall Tales in the Rabbit Hole, as well as on Sunday, the Beans of Weenie show and Dude Sean show. And hopefully Trice Talk will be back on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern next week. The Slightly Serious show will be back with new episodes, and he's normally on live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But in the event James is working overtime at his day job, look for him to go live around midnight or 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and certainly be on the lookout for Pink Squirrel and as well as be on the lookout for Laura and Lou's communication station, the Ziller show, as well as the Doc G show and Mike Tampa Bay, and also be on the lookout for who else? This new Foot Fetish Inc. podcast, and be on the lookout for Torch the Poet to do his show on Thursday evenings, plus impromptu shows at other times, and Maverick of the Slacker 82 Alpha podcast on Wednesdays, and so many other great Podbean friends, including Linga Longa. And hopefully, John, we look forward to you having some new episodes next week.
I will. I'll be back a little bit more again next week. I'm going to start getting back into the show a little bit more. And I want to thank everybody for coming in today. I know I've been off for a while. It just had kind of a rough period of time. I want to thank everybody that came in today. I love each and every one of you. I really appreciate that you all come in and spend time on my show. It really does mean a lot to me. And before I sign off, I want to give one last salute to my father-in-law, Walter Ferreira, who passed away.
Love you and God bless you, everybody.
Yep, he was a good man. We're going to miss him. We're going to love him. But we know he's always going to be with us in our hearts. So, Grandpa, we all love you. We miss you. And hopefully you're back up there with your wife, hugging her right now and eating some fiddle faddles, because I know those were your favorite snacks. Mm-hmm. So, love you all, everybody. Thank you for coming in, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, Eric. Take care now.
Thank you to everybody who joined us, and thanks to everybody who's downloading your shows. Look forward to talking to y'all again soon. God bless you. Love you. Right. Have a great weekend.
Right, bye.